everyone, and welcome back to Go Ahead Tell Me. It's been a while, but I'm so happy to be back here today with Rossy. With everything going on in the world right now, many of us are likely feeling a range of emotions from sadness to fear and possibly even anger. I'm no expert, but I've learned a lot over the last few years while battling my own mental health concerns, so it seemed like a good time for Rossy and I to come together again to discuss our own thoughts and feelings around emotional health. Rossy, it's so good to be here with you today. I wanted to ask how you've been doing and have the recent world events been affecting you and your emotional health at all?
Hi, Carly. Thank you. And thank you for the question. And I'm also so happy and glad that, we've been missing you. And I'm so glad that, and I know the listeners. And I think this is, you and me who I always going to say you are the one who go ahead, tell me it's yours. I have to say that. And then, you're the founder of this English episode. And also, about these cross-gen talks, me being a Generation X and you being a Gen Y, I think, and then talk about emotional. We always said that in beginning the third season, we were going to talk about these things. And obviously, as you said, we've been going through a lot of things, all of us, and I'm sure. Maybe I think some people can focus on, work or other things, or try to avoid, and not talking just about the war, the attack to Ukraine, but also to many things. The pandemic, we still are in during the pandemic, there's still a virus, and all the changes in work and in lifestyle. The socioeconomical world has changed, and now with the war, so yes, I think most people have to be dealing with stress, and that's like a domino effect, I will say.
Yeah,
um
definitely.
yeah, so your question was how it has been affecting. I had to say and recognize it here, and proclaim it here. I don't know if you heard about the resignation era, which started last year 2021, and it's about many people who are quitting their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for me a great example of how many people who were criticizing that people didn't want to work because of the unemployment or things like that. And by the way, in my community, we are Latinos, are very entrepreneur. So we do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work, or are a business owner, or do independent work. But um but the resignation era affected a lot of people from all of the different cultures and everything. They
Mm-hmm.
resign. And I remember last year was 4 million, and I think in this year, it's only in this trimester, it's been 1 million. So a lot of people decided to resign a lifestyle, I will say, because if you, I'm working in a corporation, but that type of work, really, I realized during the pandemic and giving importance to different things, I realized that I don't want to do that. I can work maybe at home, maybe a part-time, maybe doing other things. And then a lot of people, and I think mostly women, I don't want to, I haven't exactly, I don't have the numbers here, but there's 5 million of people that I know that resign. And that's why we will always remember this as a resignation era. And that had to do with the stress. And also, and now it's the war again, it's the Ukraine war. So I think I'm part of that. And, I'm a business owner. And then, and I travel a lot. I travel last year, as soon as I could travel, I traveled to Miami because it was where my family is. My daughter is in Washington, D.C., but most of my family, and she comes here, it's in Miami. So I had to travel like 3 times, and then I went to my country, to Honduras, which I haven't been for more than a decade. And so that was important for me. Being with loved ones, really close to loved ones, was really important. And then I decided, right now, that I'm in Miami, and we're recording. Carly is in California, and we're recording this like this because I decided to have to do working. I can do work in both places. So I'm doing work from here and doing business here, and some work here. And again, being close to my family is really important. And that's a decision
Mm-hmm.
that I had to make. And because of that, because I say I had to give priorities, and I am a person to just, take risks and make quick decision. But obviously, again, I had to think in what's best for my mental health. That's what I've
Mhm.
learned, Carly, in these past 2 years, or three maybe. I learned that um if I can take care, and we discussed this I think in past episodes, if I can take care of my health, mental health, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, then I am a strong person, and then I can
Mhm.
help, and then I can help my friends, my family. And when I say help, really, we don't have to change anyone. We don't have to try to the other person to be like us. But I will always say that I know my role in life as a in communicator, producer, and what I love to do is to show people how can we live better lives. That's what Dale Cuéntame, as you know, go ahead, tell me, is we've always show like success of Hispanics in the first season, then the second season multicultural, because the world will always be, we're from different places and cultures and ages too. And that's why I say, well, this is it. It's success, because all people are looking for success in their careers and their relationship and money and everything. And then it's obviously the well-being, the physical, the
Mhm.
mental, and everything. And that's why in communities, that's why we started the ABC episode, because yes, we need to be well. But okay, as always, I have talked a lot. So let's share like what you have, how you've been dealing with these recent events, Carly.
I've been good. It's hard because I feel like I'm kind of like disassociated. Like I when something like this, like what we're watching in Ukraine right now happens, I tend to kind of avoid it because it's too overwhelming almost. And I know that's like a place of privilege to be able to say that, because there are people who simply can't avoid that. And so while I try to stay informed and understanding what's going on, it's hard sometimes to deal with it mentally, so I have to kind of pull myself away from it. And like I've changed how I go on social media, like who I'm paying attention to and who I'm not, both in ways to stay informed, but also to not just flood myself with the negativity and the sadness, because I just can't handle it mentally. And
Yeah.
again, I know that's something that not everybody can do that. The people who are in the thick of it, they're not able to do that, and that is, I can't even imagine that, like being in that position. Um, but also just like I said, finding ways also that I can help has been helpful. I know like last week in our newsletter, we shared an article that showed different ways to help, and that kind of helps to um, ease the feeling of like that privilege of being like, oh, well, I can just turn off my phone and not see it. So if I can find ways that I can be of help, even if it's just something like this where we're discussing it and keeping the people around us informed of what's going on as well, that has helped me to be like, okay, I can do something of use from far away, while also helping to keep my mental health in check as well. um if that makes sense.
Totally. Yes,
Yeah.
completely. And let me tell you two things about what you are saying. And I hope our listeners here are, this is Rossy Giguren, we're talking with Carly, and this is a very important episode because of two main things. One is emotional wellness. We are always in mental, obviously, but I will always say that what our mind creates, then we create our emotions, and that's when we act. And that's why it is so important to take care of the complete health. So this is talking about complete health. And then the most important thing in this type of episode, that you can go back to the previous episodes with Carly and me, is about how the different generations take it. And that does not mean at all that Gen Z or Gen X, millennials, and Generation C or baby boomers take it better ever.
Hmm.
This will never be that baby boomers or sandwich generation, my generation, will is taking the pandemic better, the what you happening is happening in Ukraine better. No, not at all. And so the most important thing of what you said, I just wanted to tell you that, I have my daughter, I have nephews, nieces, and people that are really close to me that are young, and I know, and saw that. I saw what happened in the pandemic. And also, I'm a producer, so I like always to look for solutions. But then I realized that it was a generational thing, because that dissociation that you talk, it's general, and it's general in younger generations, because you've been dealing with too much. You've been dealing with too much for a long time, since you were, teenagers, when the Facebook, Instagram, and all of this. That is too much. That is really too much. And I, we, that's why I say no generation is doing it better. We're just doing it the way we understand. And the main thing is, yes, to be informed, and to protect us. And that, for example, is why I decided, okay, let me do, with Christian, the ABC, the analyzing for the benefit of the communities. Let's do this. Let's try to, and he, since he's an expert in politics and everything, he said, okay, this is what Putin happened. He gave us a chronological explanation on how the attack started in February. But
Mhm.
and as I said, what we mostly want is for you to know that this is important, but that we, as you can go to past a previous episode, you can listen to our therapists, and Maria Elena and the other therapists that we've had, great therapists telling us how to take care of our health, and that's
Mhm.
important. So for me, it was like, okay, that, and if there's something important that Christian can tell us, that we will have it. But mostly, that's what this episode, it's also very important, how Rosie is dealing with this, how Carly is dealing with this, and that no one is doing it wrong. No one is doing it
Yes.
wrong. It's just the way that it's healthier. It's like I said, for example, and I remember my daughter, for example, she in when I interviewed her during the pandemic, that's the main advice that Kimberly gave. It was at the beginning, and we were all at home, and she was saying, and she got a new job, and she was saying that if she needed to watch Netflix the whole day for her mental health, that's what she was going to do. And again, and obviously, and I thank her, because she remembered that I always said, um, tomorrow will be another day. Everything is a moment. So we don't have to be tragic about the future, or pessimistic about the past. That's the most important thing. And if we need to just talk to our boyfriend, girlfriend, and or mother, or whoever that make us feel good, or a friend, let's do that, and then sleep, and then eat, and then be ready the next day, or you can take, or we can take a couple of days. That for me is important. The other thing that you mentioned, Carly, and hopefully you can stop me when you want, but but you mentioned two very important things that I think most people are thinking. One is that, oh, I'm not paying too much attention, and mostly young people, and that's fine. That's completely fine. Nobody is guilty of that. Obviously, it's tragic to see those images and what's happening, or be concerned about that. But the second thing that you mentioned is that when you see those people are there, or when you know about the ones that are there, and you just reminded me, because I always listen to different things that makes me again better, and that I always can have peace. One of the persons say, yes, I can tell you, all of you, to be at peace, to meditate, and to be in charge of yourself and your family. But those people that are in Ukraine, they don't have that time to elevate their spirit and to meditate, and they are not in those circumstances to do that. And you mention it, you say my privilege, and it's also my privilege. I could do, I could say, and this was before the attack, but I say I want to be with my family in Miami for a while, and I can do that, and that's a privilege. I can go to Honduras and come back, and that's a privilege.
Mhm.
But that we this what's the only thing that is really helpful, to thank, to appreciate, to be grateful about that. Obviously, that does not mean that we don't deserve the privilege. And I'm not gonna go there like, okay, what you did. No, we are, every one of us is in the place that we have to be. And obviously, actions that we make help next thing in our lives. Now, what we can do, and I know we're gonna be able to do, is like, for example, I support some of the decisions that I've heard that the administration is doing. One of my friends said, "Oh, why are they sending ammunitions and all these things for them, if we have people at the beginning. And I know I had a talk with her, but there are people who need food in US, and I had to have an explanation with her on that. But my thing is, in everything that we can do to help, we will help.
Mhm.
Being donations, being like, you have a cousin, I'm just gonna mention that I'm just making it up. If you have a cousin who is really stressed, she is very stressed and she's suffering, or maybe she has a family in Europe or something like that, then you are gonna be with her and you're gonna support her. And if that's related, it's related, then you're helping someone who's suffering, or maybe an immigrant who comes from there, or something like that. We will, God is gonna give us, the position, universe, or the energy. We will have, or we are having. I believe, like you, what you're doing with your partner, with your family, anything that you do, taking care of your mental health, that's great. That is really great. That you're helping. I admire you, Carly. You're a great person. You're really a great woman. So
Thank you.
that being you, and taking care you are, and taking care of yourself, and keep being you, and not, exactly, like watching a lot of news, or people saying this government, the other government, and then blaming, and that stress is spreading that stress. That's not good, obviously. But
Right.
again, the ones that are there, we can obviously pray. I do believe in that. But also, I know it's not the prayers that are going to help them, those terrible things that the government is doing, the Russian government is doing to them. But we can be aware on what can we do. Like, for example, you recording this podcast. That's really, really, really helpful for a lot of people. So you're doing a
Mhm.
great thing. So that's the thing. We can do whatever we can do with our abilities and in our skills. So thank you for that. So remember that you're doing great. And this is for the listeners. Obviously, Rosie and Carly here, we're just talking for you to relate to what we do, and do your best in whatever you do. Being a business, you're a nurse, you're an attorney. Do your best doing what you do. Pay attention, obviously, as we mentioned in the other episode. Have your car with gas all the time. Don't leave it without gas, because we know what's happening. But also the cyber attack. I had to mention this because we didn't mention it with Christian, but then I know that there's most likely that's going to be a really big cyber attack. And I mean, we already had it. No, maybe that big, but we already had the things the attack in the computers. The main thing, because I talked with a couple of IT people, and they say, just don't click on the links that you don't know. Even if it's mine, that was a cousin that works on that. And he said, even if it's mine and you don't know and you see it's weird, just call me and ask me if that I sent you that link, because that's the way that Russia started to attack Ukraine. And then we know that Biden mentioned it. He said that he will. That he's working to defend that attack that we know that they could do. But in our phones, at text, or in our computers, even in our phones, remember, we use a lot our phones, but then we have a click from the pharmacy or from different places. So their advice is not to click on links that we don't know. So again, taking steps, being informed, and those are the things. But so what about your family and your friends, Carly? How do you see them? And I don't know if you obviously have any questions or anything, but how do you see people around you dealing with this?
Um, it's hard. I my days right now are so long that I feel like I spend very little time actually speaking to anybody around me right now. But my one thing is at work we've discussed it. We have had conversations about like how it's affecting us, and just talked about like just to keep in mind what's going on, and to understand that some people may be struggling a lot with this, which has been helpful. But in terms of like my friends and family, I've seen a lot of my friends like on social media have been posting different ways to help. Like they'll post links to things that you can click on, ways to donate. And I feel like that's something that I've seen a lot of people in my generation are using
Mm-hmm.
social media to share that kind of information. um but that's been the biggest thing for me, and the thing I've seen the most is just sharing ways to help and be involved. Because I think a lot of us struggle with the thought of feeling like we're helpless, like we can't do anything to help anybody, and we're just kind of outsiders that just have to watch from afar and not, and there's nothing we can do. But the reality is that there are things we can do,
Yes.
and so seeing that and having people share and reading things that we can do to help has been the biggest thing I've seen.
Oh, that's good. And remember, that's one of the things that, because remember what happened when Russia interfered when Hillary lost and Trump won. We all know that, and we
Mm-hmm.
all know how that previous government also, Trump is supporting what Putin is doing. So remember that that's what happened. News. That's when then the other person say fake news, but that's what happened. We scroll. Hopefully, the social networks are taking care. I don't know if that's enough. Like you say, like a donation and things like that. So again, we can create a lot of things in social media, and we can create a lot of things. So it's good that we know the source. That's so important that we know the source, and that that we know that we are really informed. And going back to Carly, and if you have questions, please stop me. But one of the main things in going back again to our mental health, emotional health, that we say, and I have learned again, it doesn't matter the people I love. It doesn't matter if it's my partner, if it's my daughter, if it's my mother. It does not matter how close they are. The one that I had to take care first is me, and
Mm-hmm.
it's my heart, and it's like I had to be nice to me first, and I had to learn that, and I'm gonna keep learning. I say I'm gonna be 100 something years, and I don't know, but I'm gonna keep learning until the end. That's a fact.
Do
And if
you
we
have do
Mhm.
you have things you do like daily to like handle your own emotional health or how you handle stress? Do you have like a technique or routine for those kinds of things?
Yes, you know what? The main thing that I do is that when I know that it's getting very stressful thing, I go hiking. I'm gonna have trouble in Miami these weeks because there's no mountains here. But anyway, I try to go. I'm asking my niece to go and play basketball with me, but I try to go those type of things because physiologically we our body, we do think that we move our body, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but walking around the neighborhood, that we have we've explained in a lot, dopamine and serotonin. We do those things in our body. If we're sad, or that's why you see a lot of people running or doing things that makes them do cardio, for example. I do that. I
Mm-hmm.
like that. But I also again listen to. I try not to, even if I my best friend that I talk almost every day, and when we don't talk almost every day, maybe she's going through something, I'm going through something, and we maybe said something that we didn't like, but we are always respectful, and that's very important. And then we go
Mm-hmm.
back, and if I know that I can speak to her because she can talk and we can talk, and then I do that, or call my mom, or that's one of the main things. Talk to a person that you know that will be there for you. That's
Mm-hmm.
really important, and you know who they are, who is the people that are going to be there for you if you call them. And but they're this is key for me. They're not going to be negative people, or people that are
Mm-hmm.
going to criticize or say, oh yes, the family, or oh yes, the war or the pandemic, that are not going to be negative. And that is because obviously we're humans and we love those people. But we need again to be, is when we put the mask on first, and then to the other person. So that's what I do, call people that I love. I also again do some type of exercise and listen to my podcast, or the podcast that I listen, YouTube, things that or difference. I don't know. I don't think that I mentioned in this podcast, but I listen to different things. It can be Christian, it can be Catholic, it can be, Abraham Hicks, it can be, and if people have heard Abraham Hicks, and, it's a lot of things. Paulo Coelho, who has been my mentor. So people that really inspire me and in things that they said, and I always say, Papa Dios, God sent me messages throughout different things, but I choose those things. I don't go to people who are victims or who are always talking about other people or things like that, because that I know is not good, obviously.
Yeah, I love the that you brought up speaking to people that like mean something to you and people that you can trust to go to, because I one thing that's helped me so much in every aspect of my life whenever I'm struggling with anything is my best friend. She
Mm.
is like I can call her at any time of the day, and if she's working and it's not anything serious, then I'll just leave it. But if I text her and I go, "Hey, I need you, like I need to talk to you, like something's going on." And same with her, when she does the same, we always will try and make time for each other. And one thing that I've found that's so helpful for both of us, in terms of being there for each other, is we check in with each other before we will like start talking about something that's bothering us in our lives. So if I have
Yeah.
something that I really need to like talk about, I always check with her first and be like, "Hey, are you in a place that you can listen to this right now? Are you in a spot mentally that you can handle my venting or me asking for advice?" And um I've found that to be so helpful for both of us, because both of us have our own struggles, and we might not always be able to help the other person because of what we're going through in our own lives. And um it's that's one thing that I thought is worthy to share, because I think it's really helpful
Yes.
in all relationships to have that check-in before you spill everything that you're feeling. And
Yeah.
what I love about our conversations is she I always call her first whenever anything happens, whether it be good or bad or sad or whatever. She's always the first one I go to. And the reason being is her and I, our conversations, we will always laugh no matter what. If somebody's crying, if we're having a bad day, like one of us will always make a joke and we laugh with each other. And it always, like after our phone calls, I always feel better.
Mm,
And so having those people, I think, is so important.
very
um,
important. Very
and
important. Hmm.
yeah, and even like with like the things going on in Ukraine, like her and I will have conversations about that. And she was somebody I went to all the time for like dealing with the pandemic at first and not knowing what was going on, and having a different point of view to discuss and learn from each other. And I think it's so important to have someone that you can count on for those things.
So, and there's also and we have, like you say, you have your friend. I have my friend. She's for, she met Kimberly when she was like a so it's more than 20 something years, a great friendship. And not just like you and me, we have that best friend, and I have other friends that I love to, like I'm missing my friends in LA too, that I on the weekends I had to go, and I have other friends that I talk to, a couple of friends that are really very important to me. And that's where we go first, to the people that we know that we're not gonna be judged. And
Right.
again, please, mothers, fathers, and aunts, and everyone, it's not that we are judging. It's that we know, and that's Papa Dios, that's God who put us, angels, I say. But we go to places where people don't judge us, and we don't feel judged. We feel loved and not rejected. That is very
Mhm.
important. So if but we have to be clear, and I'm a Gen X, so understand to the young people that your mom also doesn't want to be rejected or not loved,
Mhm.
and that she or your aunt or your uncle or whoever, or your bosses that are older, obviously they are doing their best. All the people are doing their best. That's the main thing. Everyone is doing their best with the knowledge that they have. And
Mhm.
so if we, it's like, and I'm gonna just say that example, a teenager or a boy or a young boy, professional young boy, I don't want to, so he is like upset with his father, and his father has done wrong, or he has done wrong. If we just understand, try to okay, I'm a boy and I cannot speak to my father. Let's not speak to him, because you don't want your father to judge you, but you don't want to judge your father also. You go to
Mhm.
your best friend, you go to other people, and better. And when you are better, you go back. One of the main things, and I know this Renee Brown, I know she's great, and the millennials and everyone likes her thing about vulnerability. So if you heard Renee Brown, she talks about vulnerability, and I don't have her things here, but I know that being vulnerable is that you accept that you have mistakes. That's the main thing. You accept that you make mistakes, and that if you need to change something and improve, you improve. And I know that most people, again, and we're talking about mental and emotional health, if most people are upset because of other people, because things happen in life, things happen. And obviously, I was going to say the other one, but it's not. Things happen. Things happen in life. So, so yes, and it's terrible and it's tragic. And in our lives, just our life, imagine in the world what's happening. So the main thing is that let's focus on ourselves. Let's make peace to ourselves. And self-love, as I always say, I like to change it to self-value. I
Mhm.
am I have a word, and you too, and everyone. And then if I made a mistake, let's change it. Change what I need to change and improve, and then I can help other people. But it's so great, Carly, what you just mentioned about your friend too, and how you can go to her, and that's our advice, I think, right? How can we go to people who can listen to us or make us feel better when we are down? Listen to music, and like you say, you also gave advices at the beginning when you say I chose what I needed to see in your Instagram, TikTok. I imagine it's TikTok nowadays better.
Yeah.
Um, so you choose what you see, and like you said, this association is one thing, and I think I'm pronouncing it more in Spanish, but also and you know what you need. If you need comedy in TikTok, if you need all these things, that's good. And also you check up with someone, like maybe your friend or some other people, to be informed, right, and not feel
Mhm.
guilty. That's really important to me. Just finalizing this, you have other question, I know, but if you have, is that your thoughts is what makes your feelings.
Mhm.
And I just don't get tired of explaining this or saying this, because as Diego Tamaño has always said, I can talk about my life. That's why I'm an expert in my life. I'm not an
Yep.
expert in anything else. So, and I'm a communicator, so I communicate. So my thing with how my brain works is how, the brain works. Also the studies in psychology, but in my, my thing with Papa Dios, how I believe. First, I believe in him, and everyone can believe in, I believe that there's a superior force that I can connect with. And then after that is my thoughts. So if
Mhm.
my thought is like, I'm afraid I had to, something is going to happen, and I make that thought recurring. That thought is on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then my emotions, because I'm afraid, because I made that thought recurrent, then my emotion is, I'm afraid, and then I get sick, or I am angry with the first people that I meet in the parking lot, because I am afraid or angry, or frustrated because of the thoughts that I decided to make. And I know we don't see mostly like this. That's why also Joe Dispenza, I think, is another person that I listen again to a lot of people, but I like the scientific explanation. If you choose a thought and that thought is recurring, and I mentioned to you, I remember in one of the podcasts I mentioned, if I think my boss is gonna fire me, my boss will fire me because I did this wrong, or something like that, or this, then that's gonna happen because we make it happen, and maybe it's just because we provoke that emotion. So again, Carly gave the solution. Carly has been giving the solutions in this episode. Talk to your friend, yes, and choose what you listen to. Don't feel guilty at all of what you do. Just try to be nice to yourself, and then you can be better to others.
Right. So you're talking about the thoughts that you have and how that impacts your life. You and I have talked before about just how positive you are. And it's something I always have admired, like talking with you, is your positivity. So my last question for you, because I definitely struggle with remaining positive through tough times, and just mentally I can have a hard time keeping a positive mindset. So I wanted to ask you if you have any tips for maintaining a positive outlook on life, especially through tough times.
Yes, thank you, Carly. And I know hopefully our listeners, good thing with podcasts is that you can rewind and listen to what we to, but it's mostly what we've been talking to. This podcast, this episode is Cross and Rossy. Carly's a millennial, I'm a Generation X, and how we are dealing with the stress, and obviously we're in March 2022, and then we know that Russia is attacking cruelly to Ukraine, and so we not just that, but obviously we're still with the pandemic and a lot of things happening. The way I do and I choose, and we're mentioning, and what I'm gonna make is a conclusion or a brief with your question, Carly, and thank you. Yes, I'm a very positive person, but I am, imagine I'm a woman, mother, and sister and daughter, and I'm hurt and I cry, by the way, lately, and I confess it with pride here. I have cried. I have gone
Mhm.
to bed and I cried. And it's not just about Ukraine, it's about different things that obvious in I had to share. I don't have to, but I always share. But I share it. It's because I would like for people to. That's why your question is so important. To live in my brain when I can be positive. Maybe that's the answer. So when I get frustrated, is like I if I can be positive, I would like everybody in the world to be positive, because what I feel is that it helps me a lot to live a better life, with a lot of money, with no money, with a partner, without a partner, with no partner. So that's my thing that I see in other people. They, again, I mentioned this before. So, and I noticed that it's like I noticed that my color of my skin or yours or a person who is black or Asian, it doesn't matter. So for me, the being optimistic, and there's a term that I put it there. When I put optimism, intelligent optimism, I didn't invent that word, and I'm not saying that I'm intelligent. We all are. But what I'm saying is that in psychology there's a term that is intelligent optimism, and what you do is different steps, and those steps, for the past 3 years mostly, I have decided to do them. I've always felt that I've been like, okay, let's do a solution, but maybe I was frustrated sometimes. Maybe I was like a strong woman. Right now is my health is important. The health of everyone is important. So let's do this. Let's be optimistic but intelligently. I believe, and I had a doctor in the podcast in Spanish, Dr. Juan, who is in the morning show in Univision, and he explained it. He said that we need at least, and I believe I say 3,000 steps, but it's about 10,000 a daily for our health. So do cardio, do something that, talk to a friend, or a mother or a partner that we know that we're not going to be judged and we're going to be loved and respected. That's really very important. And let's remember that the other people in our family, and they all always love us. That's obviously what it is. In a family, you are loved by your family. We are different, but we are loved. So that's one of the main things. Go to a friend that you can talk to, do cardio in my case, obviously, and then listen again to the things that for me is listening, or maybe watching, but lately has been listening. Maybe that's why I'm in the audio world now. But it's listening to things that really impact me in a good way, or looking at things in social media, or doing things that really impact me in a good way. Three things: whatever it goes through your mind, to your eyes, through everything, is what makes your body. So
Mhm.
what you take care, you bring to your mind, and who you talk to, obviously what that person is going to tell you. And sometimes you don't even have to speak, in my case, to your best friend or some other people. You can talk to yourself and be kind to yourself and do things that really are good to yourself, and that are not damaging you or hurting you, and then hurting others. That is also important, because if not, then you're going to feel guilty and things like that. So again,
Yeah.
I
I
will
think
not
you
stop. So thank you for, but I will not stop, Carly. I will keep going, and obviously going in circles too, because those
no,
are the same thing. But yes, those are the things that I really help me.
no, I think you said to be kind to yourself, and that's something I have to remind myself of a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to Just remember that we are all human, and including yourself. And one thing that my therapist has said to me before is to talk to myself as if I am talking to my best friend. Because
Oh,
don't say, you would never say the things you say to yourself to your best friend.
mhm.
So that's how you should talk to yourself, and be easy on yourself and not so hard. So
Com-
thank you for bringing that up, because it's something I remind myself of. So you've brought that back up to my attention so I can be better about that.
and I'm not gonna talk anymore, but I'm gonna say this at the end. Let's do what Carly just said, because that's the main thing. Let's deal with whatever is going on, even in the other continents and in here. Let's be kind to ourselves first. Let's
Hmm.
be the best friend of yourself. Let's just, and I put it the other day. I remember now that you're saying it too. Treat the other person, and by the way, it was about mental health, but treat the other person, the person that you will love the most. Treat yourself like that.
Hmm.
And I can assure you that if you do that constantly, then you can really love those other people better, because you are, you love yourself. So you're so happy with yourself, or so in peace with yourself, that if you take care of yourself in your body and treat you really well, you respect you don't give bad thoughts. So change what you have to change, improve what you have to improve, but love everything. You're a human. I am a human, and we will never be perfect, ever. So let's just love ourselves, and then we can love others.
Yes,
Thank you, Carly.
exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rossy. Thanks for such an insightful conversation. And as always, thank you to everyone listening. Be sure to follow Go Ahead Tell Me on Instagram, and you can subscribe to our podcast through Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope everyone stays safe, and our thoughts are with all of those affected by the tragic events happening in Ukraine. Talk to you all soon.